Well, good morning and welcome back to the Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. We appreciate you being here this glorious Monday morning. It is January 9th, and we are back. I told you that we would take some time off during my Christmas and beginning of the year vacation. My teaching schedule goes a lot with the school schedule, and schools aren't back until today. And so I'm not back to work with my regular 9 to 5 until today. So I thought I spent a couple of weeks kind of away watching things. And boy, there was stuff to watch, wasn't it? Kevin McCarthy is Speaker of the House. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is now the Speaker of the House, third in line to the President of the United States. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to work out. A lot of people are wondering why all the kerfuffle. Why wasn't it a foregone conclusion? Well, if the Republican Party is about change and about making sure that people are heard, they did a really crappy job. They did a fantastically, amazingly crappy job. Um, there were at least 20 Republicans who decided early that they were not going to cast an easy ballot for Kevin McCarthy. Apparently, there were meetings, there were discussions, and supposedly there were concessions made. I'm not really sure what concessions could have been made. What did they disagree with so much that McCarthy was planning on doing that he's now not going to do? I don't know, but we need to talk about that today for sure, and some other stuff that's going on. Again, thank you ever so much for those people who are listening on the podcast side, on the audio side. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We have listeners, from all over the planet, and then we've got and the viewership on YouTube is growing. It isn't what it's going to end up being. It really isn't. I have great hopes that the YouTube viewership is going to grow. We are going to continue to do what we can do to make that happen. It's again not nearly where we'd like it to be, but we have great hopes. This is the beginning of the year, and we are going to continue to do all we can to increase the production quality if we can, and to do some things a little differently. Get out in the community, do some live stuff up front from time to time. Maybe if it's what you want to do some participatory stuff. We record these shows on Zoom, so maybe some Zoom shows that we would record and then put up so you could participate. All sorts of options available to us. All right, listen, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back with more of the program right after these messages. All right, now, well, after there's a lot of screaming and yelling about either the vice president or the president visiting the southwest border, the president finally did a little 3-hour tour on the southwest border. 3 hours too short and 2 years too late. But when people were screaming for this, I was thinking back. Now, when I taught in the school system, every time the superintendent or a school board member would come to visit the school I was working at, we knew days in advance. So whenever they got there, the dog and pony show was on. I worked at schools that would suspend certain kids for 2 days or a day to make sure that they were not on campus when the superintendent came by, because you could just never tell what they were going to do. They were volatile. They were, who knows? So whenever the superintendent would visit a school, and the dog and pony show was on, and everybody was dressed to the nines and on their best behavior, they never got a clear idea, a good picture of what was actually going on. And it would always frustrate me because it's like we're just lying. We're lying, and we're not only are we lying, we are lying against our own best self-interest. The things, the concerns that we have, we are not letting the people who can do something about it actually see. So when I heard that the president was visiting the southwestern border, I was like, it doesn't matter, because he's going to get the most sanitized version of what's going on down there, and they'll be able to turn it to hit your wallet one more time. Really tough being right as often as I'm right. Really hard. But you know what? You knew that too. Um, you knew that too. I think the best plan forward, frankly, is for El Paso and all those border towns to put people on buses, send them right to Kamala Harris's house, send them right to New York, send them to Minnesota, send them to Martha's Vineyard, send them to send them to Hyannisport. That's the best move forward. Get them on a bus, get them on a private chartered jet, send them, you know, Lear jets, G6000s or whatever, and send them to places that say they are sanctuary cities. Send them to Nancy Pelosi's house. I've seen her. I've seen her house on the news. It's pretty big. She could probably host 10, 20 people easily for an extended period of time. She's got that sub-zero freezer. Put a lot of tacos in that sub-zero freezer. I know that was terrible. I'm so sorry. I'm not really, but anyway, you know what I'm saying. So that's the plan forward. And now hopefully with Kevin McCarthy, and we'll talk about this in a while. Kevin McCarthy being the Speaker of the House, we should be able to hopefully, and of course with somebody like Matt Gaetz being such a strong voice in the House of Representatives at this point, if anybody won position, it's Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz did not back down, did not back off, and that is a characteristic that a lot of conservatives are looking for in Republicans. They're not finding it, but they're finding it in people like Matt Gaetz. They're finding it in people like Ron DeSantis. Some people may not like it, but we're not supposed to have a uniparty. We'll talk about that next. As far as the southwestern border goes, don't look for any improvements. Don't look for any improvement. The president says that all that he found there was that these people needed more resources. Resources is code word for what? Money. Money. The policies are not going to change, because the leftist way and the Democrat way is to take a problem and not really change what you do, but toss more money at it to say that you've done something. And that's what's going to happen. We're back right after this. Well, hello, my name is Willie Lawson of The Morning Report. Thank you ever so much for spending some time with us today. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. With the election of Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, it was elected to the minority leader position, and on the same day they put him up numerous times for Speaker of the House, knowing full well that he did not have the votes but to let everybody know that he was going to be the guy for the Democrats in the House. It's interesting that some of the things that we've been saying all along are really coming to fruition. This is not the most popular podcast in the world, but you know what I'm saying. But you know what? I'm really, really proud of us because we get it right a lot. We get it right a lot. And the attitude we take in getting it right works a lot of the time. We are in a position now where as wonderful and as Pollyannish as it sounds, to work across the aisle and do things together. I hear from people all the time on Twitter and on social media and in person that they should just work together. Well, it's difficult to work together if you really don't have the same goals in mind. You have to, in order to work together, you first have to have the same goals. You have to want the same thing. And we have been fooled, lied to, that most of the Democrats and progressives want the same thing. We were in a time in our country where we did want the same thing, and we just had different ways to go about it. But we are in a position now, and this is serious business, where we don't want the same thing. Some people want America to be great. Number one, out front, pushing the envelope in a lot of different ways. Others in this country, and some of them in leadership, want America to be one of the pack, in the middle of the pack, letting others lead, even if it takes paying for them to do so. When the president of the United States says that somehow the United States owes Africa, the entire continent, kind of blew me away, reparations. Really? You have cities in America that have poisonous drinking water, and any part of your brain says we need to give more resources, money, to for reparations to an entire continent of Africa or to a country like Ukraine, when we have American cities that have poisonous water. I don't know how any portion of your brain gets there, that we have become the world's ATM. Now, it isn't just Democrats or that have made the United States the world's ATM. It's progressives, and it's progressives that are, registered Republicans, that have decided the way to go forward is just to pay people off, just to keep them happy and keep them fat and lazy by paying them off. So they depend on us. And then maybe they'll do what we say when we need them to. That has been the foreign policy efforts of progressives for 100 years, as opposed to being the example, the hard example. This is how you do it. You let your people do the thing that they do best, and you encourage them, and you get out of their way. So it's difficult to have a conversation about working across the aisle and working together to get things done when you don't want the same things done. It's hard to work together if one person wants your room to be painted white and the other wants your room to be painted black. How do you work together? One person can just give in. Okay, paint it black. We'll paint the next room white until every room in the house is painted black. And this is the condition that we find ourselves in right now, with Republicans giving up ground on every single solitary thing. Here's an example. Homosexual people want to get married. Well, I don't care. Get married. I don't care. And it seemed that in nanoseconds, we were hearing that there were people who were dudes who were considering themselves chicks, who wanted to get dressed in the same dressing room as your 7-year-old daughter at the Target. And it seemed like it was microseconds afterwards that there were men who had competed as men in men's sports, and the very next year they felt that they were women and wanted to compete with women in women's sports. and we're breaking world records for women's sports, crushing things like Title IX into powder, taking opportunities away from young female athletes. It just gets worse when you give up territory. Now, no one's going to like how I'm going to characterize the next thing, but I'm going to do it because sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. I see people raise children with a methodology of concession. They call it bargaining, but the way to do this is not to bargain with your children, knowing full well that you know better, that you bargain with your children, and this is a Bill Cosby line, because you care more about peace than justice. You would much rather get along and sort of hope in the back of your mind that they remember this. And the next time they'll come a little closer and agree with you, right? And work with you. Hakeem Jeffries has characterized his relationship with Kevin McCarthy as we will agree to disagree. And we will disagree without being disagreeable. He did mention, however, anytime the Speaker and the Republican caucus want to work with Democrats, they're welcome to. What's that mean? Anytime that Republicans will concede their values and work with Democrats, he'll be happy to invite them in. Well, yeah, of course. Anytime that someone will concede their values to you and stop being an impediment to you, of course you're going to, quote, work with them, end quote. Of course you are. Here's a little fact. Kevin McCarthy voted with Nancy Pelosi 46% of the time. 46% of the time. Nearly half the votes during Pelosi's term in office, Kevin McCarthy, the Republican Speaker of the House now, voted with her. Wow. Wow. Nearly half of the time. You want to know the other way? Oh, 7%. Nancy Pelosi, 7%. And I'd have to do the research, and so would you, that my thought is that a lot of those were votes on the names of post offices and the like. And you wonder why there was a bunch of people, 20 or so House Republicans who saw this and had already seen what the game was and said, no, this is not the person. The Republican machine made it seem like if it wasn't Kevin McCarthy, it couldn't be anybody. So for a minute, they pushed Byron Donalds to the fore to siphon off votes from Kevin McCarthy. There was an opportunity to elect the first Black Speaker of the House in American history. And Republicans had most Republicans had no interest in it. None. It didn't pull one single vote more away from Kevin McCarthy to Byron Donalds. Even though Byron Donalds is much more conservative in his approach to just about everything than Kevin McCarthy. I don't hold out much hope that conservative values will be pushed. I think that we will get an administration in the House of Representatives a lot like a John Boehner, maybe without the crying, but more like John Boehner, a huggy kissy. Let's work together. And the idea of having different political parties is because you have different ideologies. Not that you were getting together with a group of people that you say you disagree with and work together. I just finished watching some football games. Um, the two teams will get on the field and work together to help each other score. You know, Aaron Rodgers doesn't get to quarterback for both teams, and that's what Kevin McCarthy is probably planning on doing, quarterbacking for both teams. It's going to be a mess. My suggestion to conservatives is that you take your heart and your energy and you aim it back towards the city hall where you live, the county commission where you live. Put your efforts back in your own backyard. Put your money in your backyard, because that will be the prophylactic approach to the madness that happens at the state and at the federal level. Don't let it get into your, don't let that sewer back up into your neighborhood. Put up the wall there. Make sure your city doesn't become a sanctuary city. This is what you have to do. This is how we stop it. It's going to be hard and it's going to take some time, but this is how we stop it. One local election at a time. My name is Willie Lawson. This has been the Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.